Happy Sunday. This is my Sunday night Shats. We're going to be talking about some space. We're going to talk about some Elon Musk with Starlink, and we're going to talk about some GOP. That's right. Um, but yeah, we're going to be going all over the place. Let's see here. Why is that not going? That doesn't really matter. We'll just go ahead and get rid of you. Sorry, I think I was testing something there and just didn't get it back. But yes, this is my Sunday night chats. I'm your host, Lord Draco, and I'm be streaming to Rumble. This is something new for this particular show. I haven't done it for this show, but that's all right. We are going to do something new. Normally, I stream to YouTube, and for whatever reason, I decided to give Rumble a chance this weekend. I did stream my gameplay of Moonbase. That's what a lot of people, well, I don't know if a lot of people watch, but there's quite a few people watching in my standards, of course. But of course, we're not going to be talking about Moonbase. We're going to be talking about a few stories here and there. We're going to start off with the DART mission. Successfully, DART impacted the shortened asteroid orbit time by 32 minutes. That's right. NASA said its DART spacecraft caused a larger than expected change in the path of the trajectory, maybe trajectory, of its target asteroid when collided 2 weeks ago, making a significant milestone in the effort to protect our planet from Earth killing space rocks. Or just from killer space rocks. I can't read for some reason. 10 months after it launched the double asteroid redirection test, refrigerator-sized robotic probe crashed into a 560-foot wide asteroid called Dimorphos on September 26. It circled the bigger asteroid known as Didymos. The pair asteroids were 70 million miles away from Earth at the time and pose no threat to Earth before or after this matchup. Now, that would be kind of funny if we nudge one of these and now it becomes a threat to Earth. I'd find that ironic in a morbid sense of way. Before the crash, the DART science team said they expected the collision to reduce the time it took for Dimorphos to go around Dimorphos around 10 minutes. NASA would have regarded any change in excess of 73 seconds a success. After the crash, detailed observations from the ground-based observatories showed that the orbit was actually 32 minutes shorter, going from 11 hours and 55 minutes to 11 hours and 23 minutes. How's that shorter? I don't exactly understand it. Or well, maybe yeah, it is shorter. So you sped up the rotation that goes around the bigger one? That's 3 times as much change as scientists were expecting. Scientists also said Didymos appears to be slightly closer to Didymos. This is a watershed moment for planetary defense and watershed amount of humanity, NASA Administrator Bill Nelson said today. All of us has a responsibility to protect our home planet. After all, it's the only one we have. I could agree to that. Definitely agree to that. The result suggested that the impact spacecraft could have changed the path of threatening near-Earth objects enough to avoid the collision. However, scientists caution that further analysis will be needed or is needed. Result is one step towards the understanding the full effect of DART and impact will target asteroid. Lori Lays, the director of NASA Planetary Science Division, said in the news today, as new data comes in each day, astronomers will be able to better assess whether and how a mission like DART could be used in the future to help protect Earth from collision with an asteroid if we ever discover one heading our way. There's one heading our way. We just don't know it yet, and that's the scary truth. Is we pretty much mapped out a lot of the asteroids in our solar system, but there's actually a ton more asteroids out there. Not mentioned, you got Jupiter that has a crap ton of moons, and I think you got Saturn, which has planets being formed and being destroyed around the rings. It's not going to take much for a debris from one of those planets to come shooting our way. Let's see here. In months ahead, astronomers will study imagery from the Italian-built piggyback probe called the Lucia Cube to get a better sense of Dimorpho's size and shape. Additional readings are also coming in from the ground-based radio telescopes. And about 4 years from now, European Space Agency mission known as Hera will send a follow-up probe to make a close-range surveys of Dimorphos and Deimos. Scientists said that the effect of DART impact may have been greater than expected because Dimorphos is basically a rubble pile in the outer space. Basically a rubble pile. Yeah. That's the other thing is a lot of these asteroids are loosely bonded together. In outer space, primarily consisting of loose bound gravity and or not gravity, gravel and ice. You're getting an enhanced deflection due to the amount of ejecta, the rocky material that's being thrown off. When the DART collision happened, said Nancy Cobalt, the DART coordinator lead from Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Laboratory in Maryland. Asteroid made of sterner stuff, for example, an iron-rich space rock that is due to be studied up close by NASA Psyche mission in 2026 might not have been deflected as much as an impactor as equivalent mass. Successful asteroid deflection operation is likely to be required more advanced planning and coordination than the operations portrayed in the movies like Armageddon. It doesn't matter if I can't spell Armageddon. It's not like the end of the world is coming. Cobalt noted that the DART produces a 4% chance in, or change, not chance, change in Dimorphos orbit parameters. It just gave a small nudge, and she said that if you really want to do this in the future, you could potentially work, but you want to know to do it in years in advance. Warning time is really key here in order to enable the sort of asteroid deflection to potentially be used in the future, as this is a part of a much larger planetary defense strategy. Dimorphos size put in a class of asteroids that is consisted of high priority for detection and study, Cobalt said, perhaps not big enough to cause a dinosaur level mass extinction, but big enough to cause regional catastrophe in the event of a collision. This is the first time we've been to an object of that size. Yeah, I guess the moon is slightly bigger. Glaze said that the infrared space telescope called Near Earth Object Surveyor, due to launch in 2026, should help NASA identify the characteristics, potentially hazardous objects in dimorphous size category. This is more than 460 feet, 140 meters wide. Research is supported by the B612 Foundation and the University of Washington are already developing software tools to accelerate the pace of the asteroid's detection. Of course, the Vice President Harris congratulating the team at NASA for successfully altering the orbit of an asteroid. The DART mission marks the first time humans have changed the motion of a celestial body in space, demonstrating technology that could one day be used to save the Earth. At least it wasn't word salad. But like I said, there's There's a lot of debris out there that we don't know about, and potentially one of those could come clock our time card out. And hopefully, we could catch it in time, and we could use something like DART to just give it a nudge, which may gives us another year, or a couple of years, or 60 years, or 60,000 years. But related to space, Elon Musk says SpaceX will keep funding Starlink internet in Ukraine. The world's richest man's company previously said it could not pay for the satellite internet in the country indefinitely, which is true. I know there's some jabs going back and forth whether or not he's really paying for it or if it's being funded by the governments. Elon Musk said on Saturday announced that his company would continue to pay for Starlink satellite internet in Ukraine a day after suggesting he cannot keep funding the project, which he said was losing around $20 million a month. To hell with it, the world's richest man wrote on Twitter, even though Starlink is still losing money and other companies are getting billions of taxpayer money, we'll keep funding the Ukraine government for free. Yeah, but you're not providing weapons. I hate to say it. Your technology is cool. You're providing a service that is needed, but you're not providing missiles. You're not providing weapon systems that could take out Russia. So you're not going to get that money. Unfortunately, weapons sell technology that provides information does not. Musk has said on Friday he is considering it unfair that SpaceX wasn't subsidized by the U.S. military to operate Starlink in Ukraine, even as the company's competitors such as Lockheed Martin and Boeing received billions to provide resources. They're providing weaponry. They're providing rockets. I think they're maybe providing air support. You're just providing satellites that allows people to connect to it and have the internet. As important as that is, that doesn't take out tanks, or it may take out tanks because you could watch them, but at the same time, they're not weapons. U.S. military confirmed was communicating with the billionaire company about funding for the satellite's internet network after CNN published memos sent from SpaceX to the Pentagon. We are not in a position to further donate terminals into Ukraine or fund the existing terminals for a definite period of time, SpaceX director and government sales wrote in a letter seen by the network. And of course, this is his tweet at hell of it. Musk's tweets came after an increased number of public spats with the Ukrainian leaders who angered by his suggestion that the country pursues peace by acknowledging Russia's sovereignty over Crimea, accepting the series of referendum allowing Russia to annex territory, and committing to neutrality in the future. Trying my hardest to de-escalate the situation and obviously failing, Musk said in reply in a sympathetic tweet from the Mega Upload founder Kim.com, who is currently fighting extradition in the U.S. on charges of money laundering and wire fraud in response to a suggestion of surrender. Ukrainian ambassador to Germany, Andriy Melknik, told Musk to F off is a very diplomatic reply to you. The only outcome is now that Ukraine will ever buy your effing Tesla crap, so good luck to you. Oh no, Ukrainian. But while Musk early suggested that his request for subsidies was in response to Melnick's message, tweeting, "We're just following his recommendation," to the letter to the Pentagon. The letters to the Pentagon had been sent in September, well before his October intervention into the conflict. Starlink is a constellation of more than 3,000 small satellites in low Earth orbit. It has been vital to Ukrainians' communication as it fights against Russia's invasion. SpaceX has donated about 25,000 ground terminals to Ukraine, according to an update figure given by Musk last week. But some have complained that the company's donation is a small portion of the actual count of Starlink terminals in use of the country, most of which are bought and paid for at market rates. Yeah, I think what is it? Population is a couple million, maybe like 20 million or 20. Yeah, I think it's 20 million, maybe roughly around there. Maybe a little bit less than that. And if the public is buying these terminals, then they're not being funded by the Musk or by the government. So therefore, it could be this 25,000 is rather small when it comes compared to the private sector versus the public sector. I admire the actions of SpaceX of enabling Starlink services in Ukraine. It is a true game changer for the Ukrainian army in open fields of no cellular and long distance, not suitable for radios, given the situation of changing quick on the battlefield, wrote Dmytro Zolenko, the founder of Ukrainian military charity Dysgar's Paul. Despite that, I have not seen any Starlink in which was brought by the governments or SpaceX. All Starlinks have been seen, used, or brought in either by volunteers like myself or soldiers put their personal money. The subscription price is paid out of pocket. The Ukrainian activist Melania Polatia added that thousands of Ukrainians were paying for Musk companies monthly, sharing a screenshot of her own bank account with more than 6,000 pounds of outgoing payments to Starlink. So the question is, did you really lose more money than you earned? I mean, it's an interesting counter argument, don't get me wrong. And like I said, it could be the public company, which is, or the public side of it, he's losing money on an estimated 20 million a day. And it could be the private, not the private, but the private sector, which is buying the terminals, is making up for the revenue. So I don't know. Like I said, it was an interesting article. I'm kind of glad. And here's the tweet that he said with it. Followed up with the comments in this thread are conspiracy theories, wet dreams. No good deed goes unpunished by David Sachs. Even so, we shall still do good deeds. Let's see here from Eva Fox. Haters will always find a reason to hate you no matter what you do. So it goes. I mean, I don't know if he's really losing money or if it's a wash because you get your public, which is losing money, but the private sector, which is gaining money. Who knows? I don't know the whole details. You have to keep an open mind. And of course, according to the CBS News, the GOP leads for House control. Democrats' momentum stalls amid economy worries. CBS new battleground tracker poll. No kidding. I could have told you that the Democrats are losing. They're going to be losing off of tradition. Historically speaking, the sitting president will always lose the House after the first 2 years. It's how it always goes. That's how Americans operate. Now, historical data doesn't mean that future is going to stay the same, but it's a good indicator. For 2 months now, the Democrats chipped away at the Republicans' lead in the battle of the House control, helped by motivated abortion rights voters and what turned out to be a fleeting glimmer of optimism about the economy, but that momentum has stalled. At least for now, the Republicans' House lead has stabilized today around 224 seats to the Democrats' 211. The Republicans' lead had shrunk in the two previous models run for September and August. What's behind this? Today, views of the economy has gotten worse, amid continuing inflation, volatile stock market, and a stark reversal from August. People are reporting gas prices are rising in their neighborhoods, and voters are feeling it personally. More now say that their own financial situation is bad, and there's more concerns about saving and paying for things compared to last month. Republicans still win voters who prioritize the economy, but haven't been able to grow their share of them. Meanwhile, Democrats have not been able to grow the number of people prioritizing the abortion, an issue that favors them. I mean, it doesn't matter. I think the abortion thing is, I'm not going to say it's a dead end. I think the people that were for abortions are already going to vote for Democrats. And people that don't think it matters, like the independent voters like myself, think it's a non issue when there's more important things like out of control spending, which is increasing the inflation. So it's becoming clear that so much of the closing weeks will all be motivated turnout for all who attends these elections. Get many eligible voters simply will not participate to that, and the model of the couple scenarios will emerge from our data. Get out and vote. Get out and vote. Your vote matters. There's a lot up to stake right now. I mean, I know this is on a national level, this is federal level stuff I'm talking about, but you got local elections that's going to affect you more than on the federal level. Of course, you probably have some state levels as well that is going to go into play. And I don't know if you can hear my vacuum cleaners. Let's see here. Why have things steadied? We want to understand just how voters assign blame or reward on the economy. For the Democrats, it brings a sobering look in how voters reasons from the results that they see before them. But by double digits, Democrats are still losing independents who report that their personal finance situation is bad. And for those whom high prices have made their lives worse or more difficult. Taxes. Taxes are making my life difficult. My house tax. I haven't checked the mailbox. I'm pretty sure I've gotten the bill. But it's not going to be this month. It's going to be next month when I get that bill. And it's probably going to be somewhere between maybe 9 to 10,000 that I just have to give to the city because my house is worth so much more because of inflation and a booming market, which is going to drive a lot of people like me out of their homes. This house is paid for. I have no mortgage, but I can't afford to live here. And that's more on a state/city level. So it's not really a Democrat or Republican, to be honest. Democratic policies are not the main reason for people see the inflation. More pin the blame on international forces and supply issues, but the party isn't absolved either. I blame the Democrats for the inflation we're seeing. They kept on spending. But was it the American Recovery Act, which added trillions of dollars to our debt? And you got the Inflation Reduction Act, which also added more inflation. Congress needs to stop spending. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. You have to stop spending. We don't have a tax issue. We have a spending issue. And the more money that you spend means a weaker dollar because you're just adding money into the economy or adding dollars, dividing the buying power of the dollar to make it even less. I mean, we're still a good dollar. I mean, the US dollar is still pretty strong in respect to the global stage. Let's see here. Supply and manufacturing issues, that's kind of policy driven. Global factors, still policy driven. Democratic policies, I would actually, I get why they're saying supply and manufacturing issues. The supply chain is slowly recovering. So we're seeing supply chain issues at the store. But I don't think that's the main reason. I think it's more policy driven. The global factors are definitely policy driven too. Two-thirds of the voters are seeing gas prices go up. This isn't helping Democrats. Those who report increase are more apt to blame the Democratic policies for it by not drilling by cutting the Keystone pipeline, which would have added more fuel to the world economy. I mean, I get it, it's still Canadian gas, and Canadians are going to benefit from it more, but we would have put tariffs on it, but would have been refined in Houston, which we can make money off of it that way. But we just need to flood the global market with fuel by increasing the supply. When you increase the supply, you lower the demand. When you lower the demand, the prices go down. But that's just basic economics. But as with much as else today, an empiric experience like the prices of gas is reported through a political lens, Republicans are even more likely to say they've gone up than Democrats are. This is true in every region of the country. More voters feel Democrats' policy have been harmful rather than helpful to the economy, including independents. Two-thirds of registered voters overall think Biden administration could be doing more to combat inflation. Um, here's where I'm going to break away. It's not the Biden administration. I mean, he does control gas policies or energy policies, but he doesn't really control spending. He doesn't really control the bills that get passed in Congress. Congress passed a bunch of crappy bills. Biden rubber stamped them for whatever reason. I mean, he could have vetoed them and it would have killed the bill because it's not veto proof. I mean, you could put some of the blame on that, but he can only sign or veto bills that come from Congress. He can't submit a bill. I mean, he can. I mean, you have to have it sponsored through a congressperson in order for it to be heard. But really, it's a Democrats on the own. It's the Democrat Party which is causing economic issues. It's kind of socialist, but not socialist. It gets almost to the point where it's socialist policies, but a couple notches down, where the government controls the means of the production. And they're trying, don't get me wrong. They're trying. Let's see here, Democratic policies have harmed the economy, 48%, helped the economy. I don't know where it's helping. No difference, not sure. That should be higher. I think it's higher. Or should be higher. I think they've actually harmed the economy with their bills. Inflation, Biden administration could be doing more, is doing all it can. I mean, outside of energy policies, there's not much he could do because most of the bills are coming from Congress and he doesn't control Congress. It's a separation of power. But he does get blamed, don't get me wrong. He's the spokesperson for America. He gets all the blame and praise when America does something. All this despite the fact that the job market is seen as good and fewer are worried about their job situation than their ability to save money or about raising prices. I mean, is the job market really doing that great? The stock market's taking a dump. It's been taking a dump for the past year and a half. Actually, almost a year and a half now, ever since Joe Biden took office. And unfortunately, the job market is related to the stock market because if the companies can't make money, then they won't be able to hire people. And if they can't hire people and they lose money, they're going to have to cut costs. And the easy way to cut costs is to cut people from employment. In all, fewer than half of 45% of the voters said Biden's policies bear a great deal of responsibility for the current economy, but another quarter says some. I mean, if you're saying that he had a plan for America and Congress is following through with that plan, then yes, he's definitely bears a great deal of that responsibility. But it's really Congress. For context, U.S. presidents have always tied at least some of the economic conditions, but they aren't always determined. For instance, competitive congressional districts before the 2018 midterms, then President Trump had similar numbers of voters saying that his policies were responsible for the economy. The economy was widely seen as good then, but the Republicans lost the House by wide margins, anyways. I mean, it's hard to say. We could do all these pollings, we could do all these questions, but really it's going to come down to the last poll, which is the election night. As Republicans continue to win economic focused voters, the question arises, why haven't they gained even more? Well, that's because you have a media that has demonized Republicans. They won't demonize Democrats that do the same action, but they'll demonize the GOP. And they get a free pass. And actually, I mean, Democrats get a free pass. Majority of the news outlets lean left, or if not just holding water for the Democratic Party. That's why they haven't gained more. Or it could be that when you do these polls, Republicans don't answer because they fear for their safety or they just don't want to play your game. They do outpace Democrats on having policies that would help the economy, but there's also more likely seen as helping the wealthy, specifically than the middle class. Well, you can't help the middle class without helping the wealthy. And what is middle class? I mean, is it the 40K up to 100K? Or is the middle class now 100K up to 120K to 400K a year income? What is the middle class? Because there's a lot of people that are part of the 1%, but they're not part of the 1%. Because they make around 250 to 500K a year, which just brings them into the low tier of the 1%, not the high tier of the 1%. Republican policies, I mean, they may help the economy, it may harm the economy. I just know that the policies there now are actually hurting the economy. What do their policy favors? The middle class, the wealthy. Um, the wealthy gets demonized as well, unfortunately. For the moment, it appears that abortion is already factored in some extent, and it has been the issue brought by the Democrats in contention in the face of all economic news is still critical, but has not significantly expanded the importance since. People that are for abortion are going to vote Democrats. That's all there is to it. Doesn't matter that their policies are going to damage the United States. They're going to vote Democrat because they're for pro-abortion. Nothing's going to change in there. We've said it for a while. Much of the contest is about who can define what the election is about. The Democrat campaigns want to be about abortion. I think it's a dead end. And for so many voters, it already is. But over the last month, Democrats haven't grown the number of voters who see abortion as very important because it's not. You're killing a life when you do abortion. Whether or not it should be legal or not, we should be honest about it. The percentage who says abortion is very important is actually a little lower now than it was last month. I mean, because it's not. It's not very important. It's only important to the person that gets pregnant. Whether or not they want to keep their baby or abort it or give it up to adoption. Outside of that, there's more pressing concerns like the rising food prices, inflation, rising gas prices to fill up your tank. Can you afford to go to work? Can you actually afford to fill up your tank of gas so you can make it to work to make a profit in order to pay for gas and all the other things that you need? Because there's some people that can't even afford to drive to work. Democrats have managed to win even more voters who have already prioritized the issue, suggesting that the part of their messaging is working. It's just that they haven't expanded the size of that group. Whether or not that changes, or whether or not it can be, whether or not in the face of so much economic uncertainty, will probably be a key determining factor of this contest. I'm trying to read this, but it makes sense, but it's poorly written. I mean, Let's see here. Real words describing the Republican Party. Let's see here. Polarization and the bipartisan at play. And that's in turn brings us to the ideas involving polarization and partisanship. Both parties have seen the majority of the voters as extreme, with more than 8 of 10 in each party seeing the opposition party that way. Few on either side can call the other party reasonable, and that has to end. I'm sorry. Just because you vote Democrat doesn't mean I'm going to hate you. Just because I vote Republican or never Democrat doesn't mean that you should hate me. We need to be reasonable. Americans need to be reasonable with each other. Just because we have different opinions on certain key factors doesn't mean that we can't be reasonable. We should be reasonable. We should listen to each other and have that dialogue. I mean, I think the public of America, the citizens of America, probably agree on 90% of everything. It's that last 10% or 5% that we strongly disagree on. But we need to focus on the things that we agree on. We agree on that we want safe neighborhoods. We agree that we want to pay less taxes. We agree that we want more money to save. We want better paying jobs. We all agree on that. We agree that we probably want better education. Those are things that we could agree on. Rules describing the Republican Party: 55% extreme, 49% reasonable, 48% strong, 45% effective. And it's about the same for the Democratic Party, give or take a point. Let's see here. Only 1 in 10 voters who picked a party in the race for House says that they'll even consider the other party, and those voters aren't likely to vote at all. That's in line with a scant amount of crossover voting we see in recent elections. I'm never voting Democrat again. I made a video about why I can't vote for them. I gave you 2 examples of why I can't vote for them. The politicians. It's the politicians that really I can't vote for Democrat. Their party seems to have gone off the rails. Now, I'll go after politicians, don't get me wrong. I think politicians are being unreasonable, but I won't go after voters. I think you should vote for the person you want to win. You should vote for the person that represents your values, whether that be a Libertarian, Green Party, Democrat, or Republican. That's up to you to decide. And I gotta respect your decision. I'm not gonna attack you for it. I might ask you why you're voting for that moron, but outside of that, that's the way it should be. And voters on each side said they just won't be disappointed if the other side wins, but half says that they will be angry. Why? Why be angry? Why be angry when the other side wins? I mean, I'm not happy that we got Joe Biden. I mean, I'm feeling the pinch every day I fill up with gas. I'm not angry that he won. I mean, I'm kind of angry that he's not a successful president. I want him to be a successful president. He's just not displaying a president that's going to be successful. Let's see here. Prospect of losing consistent elicit more anger from Democrats than Republicans, foreshadowing the year's blue wave. Now the parties are even on this, and the vast majority of voters on both sides say that voting in this year's midterms matter as much or more than in a presidential year. Yes, because you got local elections. You need to vote in your local elections. On a city level, county level, school board level, you must vote every time that there's an election. Those things matter more than the federal level. I mean, perhaps reflecting blame associated with the party in power and highlighting the partisan division in those voting Republicans this year places more importance on opposing Democratic policies than supporting Republicans ones. If the opposition party wins, well, yeah. I mean, the Democratic policies, I don't know about the long-term effects. The short-term effects, they're harming United States. Maybe I'm being short-sighted and not seeing the long-term effects. If the long-term effects benefit America, then it's probably worth it feeling the pain now. President President Biden's approval rating among likely voters is similar to what it was last month. It was ticked up among the broader group of registered voters, driven by votes under 45 who remain much less likely than older voters to say that they're voting in these midterms. What the hell does that even mean? That's just a bunch of. This article is really hard to read. I think I could have written better, and I suck at writing. This is much. This is just what ifs. I mean, the current House, there's 222 Democrats to 213. The scenarios of, or the latest, pretty much flip flops 224 to 211, which is pretty much evenly split. I don't know if this is a true statement. If younger voters turn out, Democrats win, but not by much. If GOP edges, I mean, it's still almost evenly split. So it doesn't really matter. I mean, what really matters in this scenario is election day. When we get the results, then we're going to have to know, then we're going to know what the landscape is. My question is, what's going to be on the state level, not the state level, the Senate, because we really need both houses to stop the spending. But the issue is, we got politicians on both parties. That's why I want to see both parties be destroyed and dissolved and not be replaced. Because you got members of both parties spending recklessly. You got the Democrats that want government control of everything. At least that's what it seems like. You want rent control, price control. They don't want companies to make a profit. And then there's just spending on relief, trying to buy votes. And then you got the GOP that wants to spend money on their pet projects. Forget which congressperson it was, but they got in a bill for their state tanks that the army didn't want or the military didn't want. Then you had on the same bill a jet engine that the Navy wasn't asking for. Because he claimed that he wanted redundancy, but what he failed to tell you is that those parts were going to be manufactured in his states. The tanks would have been built in his states, bringing home the bacon. So yeah, I mean, both parties have a spending problem. The economics of it is more government driven than a lot of people give credit for it, and I think that's probably going to hurt Democrats more. Well, not unfortunately. Hopefully, it hurts them because mainly I want the Democratic Party to never have power again. Because when they have power, they're very bitter. I think the impeachment of Trump was a revenge for Republicans impeaching Bill Clinton. I don't know. That's kind of my topics today. I don't see any Rumble rants or any messages from Rumble, so I'm not going to read them because they're not there. But I do see 3 people watching me, so thank you for watching. That is about 3 more than I was expecting on this stream, to be honest. So I want to thank you for watching. That being said, have yourself a wonderful rest of the weekend. And if you do watch this on any other platform other than Rumble or even Rumble, make sure you like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below if you want to. But most importantly, have yourself a wonderful rest of the weekend.